Welcome, welcome. Um, as you know, because you've been with us many times before, I'm Miss Erin from the Cedar Rapids Museum of Art. And joining us, we have Miss Laura from the Marion Public Library. Although we can't see her, we're so glad to hear her again. Thank you, Miss Laura.
That's good.
Happy to be here.
And would you two ladies like to introduce yourselves?
Who are you? Madeline.
Yes.
Melena.
And Elena. Welcome back, ladies. It's good to have you back with us.
Yay.
So today, as we sort of hinted at before I started recording, today's theme is about a guy named Samuel Morse. Now, most people know him as the guy who invented Morse Code, and we're going to talk about that in a second. But what most people don't realize is that he was also a crazy talented artist. So I am going to share my screen so that you can see. Let's see here. Share sound. Okay. So this guy. Whoa, sorry. I'm still trying to figure out how to do this without function buttons. There we go. So dashes and dots and everything come from Samuel Morse's code, but they're also used in artwork. And it's I'm going to kind of cover a lot of different things that don't seem like they're related, but I promise they'll come back together. So this is Samuel Morse, the guy on the left-hand side of your screen. This is his self-portrait. So this is a picture of himself that he painted. Pretty good, if I might say. The picture on the right, the young woman, is his oldest daughter, and I don't remember her name. I should have looked it up before we started, but this is just a sample of the kinds of portraits that he painted. Very good painter. Nobody really knows it.
His oldest daughter's name was Susan.
Ah, thank you, Miss Lara.
Happy to help.
So Susan, I can't tell you how much I love her dress. It looks so shiny.
Yeah.
And I don't know if you noticed, but she has a big old sketchbook on her lap. So apparently he was not the only artist in the family, which is cool. Now, this is a painting that Samuel Morse did when he was traveling in Europe. He went to the Louvre Museum in Paris, France, and this was kind of his way of sharing this world famous art museum with people back in the United States who couldn't travel to France. So he painted a picture of all the pictures at the museum and then brought the painting home to show people. And it's actually going to be in our book later.
This is an incredible picture.
How many paintings are in that one room? That's crazy.
Ah.
Now, he invented this system called the Morse Code, and eventually it turned into a telegraph system. And when we look through the book, the story is going to tell us kind of how it works, but this is sort of what it looks like. So you see how this person is tapping their fingers on something, and then it's making that little light up every time they touch it. It's also making kind of a beep or a tap sound, and it's making an electrical signal that travels through a bunch of kind of like telephone wires, the ones that you see strung up on the poles all down the highways and stuff. So we're going to look at that in our book, but I wanted you to see what it looks like when it's in action. This is the code. So all of the letters of the alphabet have either dots or dashes or both to spell out words. It's a little bit like sign language, where you have to learn a whole different language, and Morse code is all about spelling stuff. So hopefully the people who are using it are good spellers, because otherwise it could get very confusing. So you notice how it's dots and dashes. Basically, if you were tapping on that machine that I showed you earlier, a dot is a real short tap. and a dash is a longer tap. So, for example, if you've ever heard somebody talking about like if their ship is in distress out in the ocean, or if they get stranded on a desert island, they might say something about SOS. SOS is 3 letters. So if you look at this chart, S, the letter S is 3 dots. Tap, tap, tap. And then the letter O is 3 dashes. So it's tap, 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 and then another S, tap, tap, tap. So it would be tap, 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 tap. Or if you want to, you can try it yourself.
Mommy, give me the toad.
And if you don't have anything to tap on, you can also try blinking it. Do you want to try it? Blink, 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 blink.
It's hard not to get extra blinks in there.
It really is. So here's the code again. So if you wanted to, you could actually try to tap out or even blink out your whole name. But think about how long it would take. If you have a really long name, it could take a while. And then imagine how long it would take to tap out a whole message to somebody, 1 letter at a time. But the telegraph people who were tapping these messages out, they got really, really fast. So they could do it pretty quickly, but it still wasn't super fast compared to talking to somebody on the phone. Now, like I mentioned before, there are different ways to use dots and dashes in artwork. These are not the ones that Samuel Morse created. This painting is by an artist named Georges Seurat, and he's famous for something called pointillism, a whole style of artwork that's all about points or dots. Yes, Miss Madeline.
Malena.
Oh, I'm so sorry.
Well, I think I knew about pointillism.
We've talked about it at Doodlebugs before. You might have remembered
it's not exactly from Doodlebugs. I remember it from an app called Painter, where I was trying to paint an Easter egg, and it showed me a picture that used pointillism.
Oh, cool. You know what? A pointillism Easter egg would look really cool. That's a good idea. I might try that next year. Good idea. Thank you. But this is a painting by Georges Seurat named the Parade du Cirque. I don't know if you can really see all the dots all that well, but if we do a little close-up of that gentleman off to the side, that's what it looks like when you step a little closer to the painting. So all it is just a bunch of dots in all different colors. And then if you get even closer, you can really see the dots. So imagine how long that painting must have taken to paint with all those dots. And most of Seurat's paintings like this were really huge, like could take up a whole wall, really huge. That's a lot of dots.
Yeah.
So now I'm thinking that Samuel Morse's messages through the telegraph, not so long in comparison. Here's some more pictures that I found just on the internet. I was scoping out different artwork that used dots and dashes. So Miss Malena, do you remember showing us the doodle picture that you were working on? Do you remember your doodle picture? You want to show us again? Okay, so imagine this picture off to the left-hand side of the screen is right now you can see it's kind of mountains and hills, but imagine all those little shapes like your doodle and filled in with different patterns of dots and dashes. Ooh. That's kind of what we're going to do today. Here's some more examples. Oh, I forgot about the moth. I really like that moth, so I wanted to show you. Yeah. All dots and dashes. It's so cool.
Maybe Malena can recreate her butterfly wings.
Ooh, that would be a fun project.
Yeah,
So
I could
here's
try.
some more artwork with dots and dashes, just to show you again some different examples. And the one in the middle kind of reminds me of your doodle project too, Miss Milena.
Oh, because
All
it's
right,
overlapping circles.
yes. And I don't know if you could tell, but they had some of the circles that were just color were plain, and some of the colored circles are filled in with dots and dash patterns. So I thought that was kind of a fun idea.
I like the one on the. I like the one on that side.
Oh, yes.
Like scales to me.
It does kind of look like fish scales. And you know what? If you use different colors that aren't fish colors, it might look like something completely different.
Maybe a mermaid tail.
Oh, there you go.
Oh,
Perfect.
You can make it in just the right shape. Then you can
Imagine doing that project with your butterfly wings, but giving them mermaid scales. I don't know what that would look like, but it might be awesome.
oh.
I have two special pens.
If you want to doodle while I'm reading, feel free, but I'm going to start off with our book. So this one is called Samuel Morse, That's Who, by Tracy Nelson Maurer. And it's shiny on the front because it's a library book, so hopefully you can see it. Back when Samuel Morse was a boy, news wasn't usually new by the time folks heard it. A letter could ride for weeks between towns or sail for months between countries. In the early 1800s, nothing traveled long distances fast. So who would dream of instant messages? Hopefully you can see the pictures okay and it's not too dark in here.
Yeah.
Samuel Morse, that's who. But first, he dabbled with other inventions, though without much success. The water pump he designed with his brother, almost nobody bought it. His marble cutting machine, already patented. He experimented with wild paint mixes too. Milk for a pearly effect, glazes for glossy finishes, even beer for some reason. So there's Sam, and there's him working on some of his inventions. Truth be told, Samuel fancied himself an artist, and a fancy one at that. But he mostly painted portraits, tromping from town to town to earn money. His dream? Painting grand scenes, Hercules dying, Bible stories, historic battles. He believed his talent would raise America's boorish taste in art. Boorish is like the opposite of fancy. Success always seemed one step ahead for Samuel. His beautiful artwork earned little attention and even less money. Still, Samuel hoped Americans would learn to love fine art, especially his. He sailed for Europe in 1829 to study the old world masters. He would paint a huge picture of their art to show back in the United States. And that's the one I mentioned to you that I showed you, the picture that he painted of all the artwork in the Louvre Museum. This is him there. Leonardo da Vinci, Rubens, Rembrandt. Samuel saw their greatest works in Italy and France. He also saw the famous French optical telegraph system in action. Created in 1794, that was amazing when I learned that. It had served military leaders during wartime and had kept villages updated with news. Towers like this one relayed nearly 10,000 possible codes for messages depending on the signal arm positions, those things up there, as long as it wasn't foggy or dark. Who would think of a better system? There's Samuel at the museum, and there's that tower. Who would think of a better system? Samuel Morse, that's who. Exactly. But not until he finished his masterpiece. Day after day, for more than a year, he painted in France. Samuel finally stored his massive painting aboard the good ship Sully. and sailed for home in 1832. Talk on deck drifted between not so new news and the possibilities for electricity. Was it simply a toy? Could this liquid lightning ever be useful, they wondered? Their chats sparked an idea for Samuel. You get it? Because
Yeah.
it's electricity. It sparked ideas.
This author is punny.
Yes, very funny. Samuel drew a system that would use electric pulses to instantly carry coded messages through wires between two machines. Neither weather nor daylight would be a bother. Samuel also sketched a code using dots and dashes to stand for numbers. Each number meant a certain word. He figured he'd need about 30,000 numbers and one very big code book. So this is him working on his code. Can you imagine? Basically, he's making up a whole new language. Yikes. Back in New York City, Samuel proudly unveiled his masterpiece. And as before, not many people noticed.
Oh.
See, does it look like that painting that I showed you? See if I can get a better angle.
Give you material
Elena?
to make
This one looks like it's not quite finished yet.
them.
Folks took great interest, however, in his ideas for an electromagnetic telegraph machine. Delightful, amusing, but how would such an electric contraption ever be useful? Who would show them?
Morse, that's who.
That's right, Samuel Morse, that too. He began working in earnest on his telegraph. He experimented with an alphabet code. He gave the most frequently used letters the easiest symbols to send messages faster. For example, just one dot could stand for E, since we use the letter E so much. Samuel also tinkered with clock parts to move a paper tape that recorded the messages. He strung wires around his studio to test his work, but Samuel was still an artist at heart, so he needed help. This is him working in his studio.
I'm gonna put
Are you watching?
Mommy.
He shared his idea with two friends,
Here.
science professor Leonard Gale and the machine-minded Alfred Vail. I love that their names rhyme, by the way. That's kind of awesome. The team clicked. Samuel set aside his paints to focus on the invention. By 1842, they were ready to show the world. They wrapped thread, tar, and rubber around 2 miles of copper wire and laid the cable in New York Harbor from the tip of Manhattan to Governor's Island. So there's one end, and it goes down here to the other end. It goes through the water, you guys. Do you think that electricity is going to work if you lay the wires through water?
I don't know.
I don't know either. Let's see. A crowd gathered to watch. Samuel began tapping the code into his machine on one side of the harbor. Dit, ditty, dit, dit, dit. In a blink, the machine on the other side began to scratch into the paper. Dit, ditty, dit, dit, dit. Amazing! People clapped and cheered until the line went dead. Then they laughed at Samuel's crazy idea. That's what the machine kind of looks like. I don't know if you can see it very well.
Yeah.
It's spitting out the tape that has the message on it. Yeah. Why do you think it stopped working?
Because it was underwater.
Partly because it's underwater. Well, mostly because it's underwater. Samuel later learned that a ship had pulled up his cable, not knowing what the wire was. The crew had cut it and thrown it back into the water.
Oh.
I know. Shucks. Oh, he was so close to success. Samuel asked the US Congress to fund a telegraph line between Baltimore and Washington, D.C. After a long and blustery debate, Congress agreed. Samuel set his deadline for December 1843. I like how the illustrator for this book drew everybody debating in Congress. I like that they're all standing around close to each other. That's not how they do it in real life because there's way too many people for that now. Delay followed delay. Samuel's team finally set to digging trenches along the route in October. They buried the cable in lead pipes so that no one could pull up the cable. Then, with only months left, crash! The trenching plow hit a boulder and crumbled.
Oh no.
I don't know if you can see it there.
Hello.
Bummer.
Shoot. While it was repaired, Samuel tested their work so far. Nothing. The team discovered that poorly made pipes had caused the wires to fail in damp soil. Samuel needed another plan, and fast. It stood to reason that if the wire didn't work below ground, then perhaps the best solution was above ground. In March, the team went back to work. They strung wires between tall chestnut poles. They covered about a mile a day, rain or shine. The telegraph line crossed into Baltimore more than a week ahead of the demonstration planned for May 24th, 1844. I don't know if I would want to do that particular job when it's raining outside.
No.
Nope. Like, the big day came. Samuel sat at his machine in the U.S. Supreme Court chamber. His assistant, Alfred Vail, set up his machine in a Baltimore train depot. Samuel tapped a coded message to Alfred. Then he waited. Moments later, the machine clattered. Dit, da, da, dit, 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 dit. Alfred had replied with the same message. What hath God wrought? Success! And I love that this illustrator drew a cat waiting for him.
Yeah.
The story doesn't have anything in it about a cat, so I don't know anything about this cat or even if he really had a cat in real life, but I love that he included that in the pictures. And I love too, we can see the message that they sent in the dots and dashes Morse code.
See it, Elena?
That's kind of cool. In time, telegraph lines stitched the United States together from coast to coast. Undersea cables linked America to Europe and beyond. Everything from train arrivals to news reports, tick-a-ticked in Morse code from city to city in seconds. Governments, businesses, friends and families, telegrams connected them all. So, who made electricity useful? Who created the messages, instant messages, and changed the world forever?
Samuel Morse, that too.
That's right.
Yay.
Samuel Morse. That's who.
Samuel Morse.
Oh, look, the cat has a friend now. Maybe that wasn't a cat. It looks more like a dog now. Who knows? You know what? If you don't want to look it up sometime, you can tell me if he had a cat or a dog or both. Yes, Miss Malena.
Both. Maybe
He could have had both. I don't know because it doesn't say anything in the story.
He had a neighbor.
This is a picture of him from the back of the book. So this is what he really looked like. It's a little bit older than the painting he painted of himself that I showed you earlier. And the back of this book too, if you want to borrow it from the library sometime, has Morse code in it, but you can always look it up online too if you want to do your project at home later. You can spell your name and stuff. So, as you've probably been working on, we're going to just draw whatever you want using dots and dashes today. So in the original thingy that we sent out about today's class, it said that I was going to use colorful gel pens on black paper, except I forgot my gel pens at the museum, so I don't have them today. And it said I was going to use pastels on fuchsia paper, and I don't have the fuchsia paper either. So I'm going to combine them. I have pastels on black paper, and this is what I started so far. This is just dots to show you how they show up on black paper. Miss Milena, do you have, what is that there?
Gel pens.
Don't you love gel pens?
Gel pens.
Oh my goodness, I love them so much.
Oh,
So, are you drawing butterfly wings or something else?
Lena!
She got started on something else.
Lena! No.
Are you just trying to see what your sister's doing?
Lena, I used
So-
to like brown.
Miss Milena showed us before a doodle that she worked on earlier that she had been practicing coloring in. Do you want to show us again?
And
So she drew a big doodle with one long line that crossed over itself and made some shapes. And then she colored in the shapes. But what I was saying is that you can make the same kind of project, that one, you can make the same kind of project using whatever you want to make the shapes. But instead of coloring them in, here's one that I just did. This is my white gel pen, the only gel pen I have in my house on black paper. So I made a big doodle, and instead of coloring all the shapes in, you can fill them in with different designs of dots and dashes, just like the examples that I showed you earlier. Remember that one that had like the mountains and hills, and each hill or mountain had different patterns in it made from dots and dashes? You can try that if you wanted to do something a little less abstract, so it shows a picture. Then you can try something like we were saying earlier with butterfly wings, or you could make flowers. You said something about a pointillism Easter egg, which has me thinking now of different things I could do with eggs. You can do pretty much anything you want to. And if you don't want to do dashes, because sometimes it's hard to keep them short enough to be dashes, you can connect all the dashes together. Do you know what you get if you connect all a bunch of dashes together?
Yeah.
What?
A line.
A line. Did you know that a line is just a whole bunch of dots connected together?
No.
Think about it. If you hold your pen down on your paper to make a dot, hold it down and make a dot, and then just move your pen. There's a really famous quote that says, a line is just a dot that went for a walk. So you can make your dots go for walks and make longer lines if you don't want to do a lot of dashes.
Give me a practice.
So this is what I'm doing so far. You can kind of see I filled in one little section with dots, and I have another one that with dashes that are all going the same direction. But your dashes don't all have to go the same direction. They don't even have to all be the same size. So you can do whatever you want to. They can even cross over each other if you want them to. They can do anything because they're dashes, and that's basically just a line. And lines do all sorts of things. Curvy dashes. If you want to make a dash that goes around in a circle and meets itself at the same place it began, then it makes a circle. That's just a big dot. Interesting. So you could keep doing this all day and come up with so many different patterns. You could make these pictures forever.
Well, then you wouldn't be able to use it.
Well, I mean, you do have to do other things, like you're probably going to eat lunch at some point.
Yeah,
But
good.
Mommy, give me this present.
This is kind of a fun project because you never really run out of ideas. And I love projects where you don't have anything in particular, like you don't have to make it look like something if you don't want to. It can just keep going until you decide to do something else.
Mommy, that's really pretty.
I like your mermaid.
Miss Madeline, are you drawing too?
No.
No?
She's making packages. She
Oh.
likes to wrap things up and say happy birthday.
That's fantastic. Every day's your birthday.
That's pretty much, yeah.
That's awesome. Miss Madeline, you can like hand design your own gift wrap. You can draw doodles all over it, just like we're doing, and then that can be your gift wrap. Have you ever done that before? I've done that for presents for people.
I have.
Drew all over paper and then used the paper to wrap a present.
I like whites right now. I like
We've even
whites.
had machines make wrapping paper for us. We made a cool little robot that had a little motor on the top, and it would spin around and make
And it had
circles.
pens
And
on
then the pens were
bottom.
attached to the feet. So it was,
And
that was
then,
neat.
and then it made nice, neat little circles, and then it drew on some freezer paper.
Oh my gosh.
Freezer paper, we could wrap it around.
That's awesome. And I now want to come to your house and play with your robot doodler. That's fantastic. I've seen people make something kind of similar. Do you know those? I don't know if you've seen them. They have like a little tiny short stubby marker that's on it's like strung through the center of a spinny top. So you spin the top and it draws as it kind of travels. You know how tops kind of travel as they're spinning. I did that several years ago and they were so much fun,
And
but
I
the
have
markers that fit in there are super hard to find and my markers kept drying out. So I don't have any anymore.
I want to show you something
For
Okay.
really special.
middle schoolers.
Ooh, I want to see something very special.
It's special art. We filled dishes with shaving cream and then we swirled around watercolor paints in it to make
Made marble paper.
Yeah.
That is
And
one of
then we
my
just-
favorite projects.
And you know what?
What?
They also smell really good.
Uh-huh. Yes, they do.
So my
Um,
question
Like the
is,
shaving
did
cream that was
Dad
used.
say it was okay to use his shaving cream?
We had to buy it special.
Okay, good.
Because
I told
we
you
usually use the
that-
gel stuff, so I had to be very specific on my
I-
grocery list.
I
Shaving cream, not gel.
told Daddy to get more.
Oh,
Yes,
good.
and then we had to buy more, so we have more on stock.
Uh-huh. I discovered that you can get some pretty decent ones at the dollar store. That works really well. We did that one time for Family Fun Day at the museum, and we were using shaving cream and acrylic paint, and which is permanent. It was kind of scary. It was really messy, and I was very nervous that people were going to get it on their clothes, and then they'd be mad because they got stains on their clothes that were never going to go away. But it
Well,
was super
maybe-
pretty.
Maybe you could have just told them to wear some grubby clothes.
Well, you
and
know.
if they wanted to, then they might have been able to.
Strangely
Yeah.
enough, grown-ups
If they
are a little
wanted
weird about
to
getting dirty. They're
wear
not nearly
some
as
clothes
fun
that
as
they
kids.
didn't really like, but
Hmm.
and then
You know, we've done that before where we ask people to wear their like grubby painty clothes, and most of the time they listen. But every once in a while somebody forgets. I've forgotten before too. Then you just have to be super careful.
yeah.
Ooh, somebody's there. So, do you want to show us what you've been working on before we have to say goodbye?
Oh,
You
wow.
made a mermaid. Oh, it's so cool.
Here's
Some
what
good
Mommy's
lines
been
there.
working on.
Ooh, oh, cool. She's putting dots on top of what she did doodled. Yay!
She drew all over with her pen, colored it all in, and then she took dots and dashes of the same color all over.
I love that so much. And you know, since yours is a mermaid, you can fill in the background with stuff like waves, because that would just be very short dashes. You could make sea creatures in the background that have dots and dashes all over them.
Yeah,
All sorts of fun things.
and for all the suckers, I could make dots.
Okay, you're a genius. All done. You don't need me anymore. Do you want to teach a class?
Oh, yes. Let's have Milena teach Doodlebugs once.
That'd be super fun.
Maybe she can teach us how to do marble paper.
Oh, you're giving me ideas. All right. So I think it's time to wrap up, but next month, hopefully we'll see you when we do poetry with Amanda Gorman.
Sounds
Yeah.
I'm gonna show you something.
Oh,
and break.
she went to show us something, but I don't know what.
Oh,
This is really.
well, first ask them if they have time.
Do you have time to look at this?
Yes, please.
Well, I've kind of made my own book series.
Oh my goodness.
It's a comic series.
Whoa.
This one is about a weed coming.
This could be a biography of my yard.
And then a carrot.
A carrot.
Carrot.
A carrot going to a snowman. And a pumpkin
Okay.
turning into a pumpkin pie.
Oh,
The perfect way to end your life as a pumpkin.
I mean, really.
And one about bees.
Do you know that I love bumblebees and honeybees? Love, love, love. Oh my goodness, that's amazing.
Bumblebees are absolutely the pandas of the bug world.
Mommy,
I mean-
I'm making my.
Horribly clever.
Mommy did this one.
Also, can I just mention that when you're drawing a bee, it has dashes on it, just like our project today. So just
You're
saying.
right.
Oh,
A pumpkin turning into a jack-o'-lantern.
Okay, the face you drew on them is so amazing. Oh my gosh.
oh.
Remember, don't say gosh.
Well done. Well done. Hopefully, we will be seeing more of your comics in the future.
Well,
All right. We're
I'm
going to
trying
say goodbye, but I will see you next time, I hope.
Okay.
We'll write some poetry together next time.
We'll put it on our calendar.
Yay. All right.
Have a good
Bye,
day.
everybody. We'll see ya.
Bye.
Bye.
Well, you were making some beautiful wrapping